Welcome to the Rainbow Nation. So, you think you know South Africa? Maybe you've heard about the vuvuzelas, maybe you've seen a picture of Table Mountain, or maybe you just know it as that place at the very, very bottom of Africa that looks like it's about to fall off the map. Well, today, I want to take you on a real journey. My name is Abbas, and we're going deep into the heart of the Rainbow Nation. We're not just scratching the surface, we're going to explore everything that makes this country one of the most complex, beautiful, and fascinating places on Earth. It's a country of contrasts, of triumphs and tragedies, a place that can break your heart and mend it all in the same day. We're going to cover it all. We'll talk about the geography, which is so diverse it's like a whole continent squeezed into one country. We'll dive into the culture, a vibrant mix of traditions, languages, and food that will make your mouth water and your feet want to dance. We'll unpack the politics because, let's be honest, you can't talk about South Africa without talking about its roller coaster of a political history, from the dark days of apartheid to the birth of a new democracy. And of course, we'll celebrate the people who shaped it, the heroes and famous personalities who put South Africa on the global stage. So, grab a cup of rooibos tea, or if you're feeling adventurous, maybe some biltong, and get comfortable. This is more than just a fact file, this is a story. It's the story of South Africa, a nation that has taught the world so much about resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of the human spirit. We're going to look at the good, the bad, and the brilliant. By the end of this, you'll see why South Africa is so much more than just a destination. It's an experience. Let's get started. Alright, let's kick things off with something that immediately tells you South Africa likes to do things a little differently. Most countries have one capital city, right? It's simple, it's efficient. But South Africa? No, that's too easy. We have three capital cities. It's not because we're indecisive. Okay, maybe a little. It's a legacy of our history. We've got Pretoria, which is the executive capital. That's where the president and the government offices are, the administrative powerhouse. Then you have Cape Town, the legislative capital, where Parliament sits and makes the laws, all while enjoying some of the most beautiful scenery on the planet. I mean, if you have to debate laws, you might as well have a view. And finally, there's Bloemfontein, the judicial capital, home to the Supreme Court of Appeal. It's right in the middle of the country, which I guess makes it a neutral ground for legal battles. It's like a marriage where the parents decided to live in 3 separate houses to keep the peace. But somehow it works. This whole setup is a compromise born from the union of different colonies back in the day. It reflects the balancing act that is central to the South African story, a constant negotiation between different regions, cultures, and powers. It's a bit complicated, a bit extra, but honestly, it's peak South Africa. Now, let's talk about independence. This is another area where the story has a few layers, like a good mille-feuille pastry, or as we'd call it, a hertzoggy. South Africa's journey to becoming its own boss wasn't a single event, but a long, drawn-out process. The first major step was in 1910, when the Union of South Africa was formed. This brought together 4 separate British colonies into one self-governing dominion within the British Empire. So technically we were independent, but still very much under the watchful eye of the Crown. Think of it as moving out of your parents' house, but they still pay your phone bill and have a key. The real breakup, the we're seeing other people moment, came much later. It wasn't until 1961 that South Africa finally cut the colonial ties completely and became a republic. This was a huge shift, but it happened under the shadow of the apartheid government. So while it was independence from Britain, it wasn't freedom for the majority of its people. That, the true independence of the spirit and of the nation, would only come decades later in 1994 with the end of apartheid. So you see, independence in South Africa is a story told in chapters, each one marking a step on a very long and often painful road to becoming the nation it is today. Let's get our bearings. If you look at a map of the world and you let your finger travel all the way down the continent of Africa, past the Sahara, past the jungles, past the Great Plains of the Serengeti, and you keep going until you can't go any further without getting your finger wet, that's where you'll find us. South Africa is located, as the name so cleverly suggests, in southern Africa. We're at the literal southernmost tip of the continent, the grand finale of Africa. It's a prime piece of real estate, I have to say. This position isn't just a geographical fact, it's shaped our entire history. Being at the end of the line made us a crucial stop for ancient trade routes and a strategic point for European powers looking to control the seas. It's the meeting point of two mighty oceans, the cold Atlantic and the warm Indian. This unique location gives us everything from windswept, rugged coastlines to lush, subtropical beaches. It makes us a gateway to the rest of the continent and at the same time, a nation that feels uniquely positioned between Africa and the rest of the world. Okay, so we've established we're in southern Africa, but let's zoom in a little closer into our specific neighborhood, our sub-region. Yes, in geography, just like in a city, you have your general area, and then you have your specific block. South Africa is the anchor tenant of the Southern African sub-region. It's the big economy, the regional powerhouse that its neighbors are intrinsically linked to, for better or for worse. It's like that one house on the street with the biggest yard and the swimming pool that everyone wants to come over to. This sub-region is a fascinating collection of countries with shared histories, cultures, and economic ties. We're talking about Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Eswatini, formerly Swaziland, and the tiny mountain kingdom of Lesotho, which is so deep in our neighborhood it's actually completely surrounded by South Africa. Our destinies are intertwined. When South Africa's economy does well, it has a ripple effect across the region. When there are challenges, our neighbors feel it too. It's a dynamic, sometimes complicated, but always connected family of nations. Now, this is where things get really interesting and a little noisy. How many official languages does your country have? 1, maybe 2? That's cute. South Africa looked at that and said, hold my beer, we have 11 official languages. That's not a typo. It's a testament to our diversity, a policy that says everyone's voice, everyone's mother tongue deserves to be heard and respected. It's a beautiful idea, and in practice it means life is a constant, wonderful medley of sounds and expressions. You've got isiZulu and isiXhosa with their famous and beautiful click consonants. You have Afrikaans, a language born in Africa with roots in Dutch, which has a poetry and rhythm all its own. And of course, there's English, which often acts as the bridge between everyone else, the language of business and government. Then there's Sesotho Salaboa, Sesotho, Setswana, Siswati, Tshivenda, and Xitsonga. Each one carries the history and culture of its people. It means our national anthem has 5 different languages in one song. It's complicated, sure, but it's also our superpower. When you have this many cultures and languages in one place, you're naturally going to have a rich tapestry of beliefs. South Africa is a deeply spiritual country, but that spirituality wears many different faces. The Constitution guarantees freedom of religion, and people take that very seriously. The most practiced religion by a large margin is Christianity, but even that is incredibly diverse. You have everything from the Dutch Reformed Church to charismatic Pentecostal megachurches to the Zionist Christian Church, which blends Christian beliefs with African traditions and is one of the largest churches in the country. But it's not just Christianity. We have a significant and long-standing Muslim community, especially in Cape Town and Durban. There are vibrant Hindu and Jewish communities that have contributed immensely to the country's fabric. And crucially, there are traditional African belief systems, which often coexist with other faiths. Many South Africans, regardless of their main religion, hold on to ancestral beliefs and traditions. It's this mix, this willingness to embrace and often blend different spiritual paths, that adds another profound layer to the soul of the nation. So, who are the people that make up this incredible nation? Let's talk numbers for a second. Right now, the population of South Africa is hovering around the 60 million mark. But, honestly, that number only tells a fraction of the story. The real story is in the demographics, the faces behind the figure. South Africa officially categorizes its population into 4 main groups, which is actually a legacy of the past, but one that's still used for statistical purposes to track progress and inequality. You have Black Africans who make up the vast majority, around 80% of the population, and they're themselves a really diverse group with many different ethnic and linguistic backgrounds like Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho, and Swana. Then you have the colored population, and that term has a very specific and different meaning here in South Africa. They are a multiracial ethnic group with ancestry from Europe, Africa, and Asia, and they're primarily concentrated in the Western Cape. There's also a significant population of South Africans of Asian descent, mostly Indian, whose ancestors were brought over in the 19th century to work on the sugarcane plantations. And finally, you have white South Africans, descendants of European settlers, mainly Dutch, German, French, and British heritage. It's this mix, this rainbow nation, as Archbishop Desmond Tutu called it, That makes the social landscape so dynamic and at times so challenging. You know, you can't really tell the story of South Africa without talking about what's under the ground. The country's history and economy were literally built on mining. It's kind of like the whole country is sitting on a giant treasure chest. The gold rush in the late 1800s led to the founding of Johannesburg and, honestly, transformed the region forever. For decades, South Africa was the world's biggest gold producer. It's the reason we have a city in the middle of nowhere with no river or port. It was built on a foundation of pure, glittering gold. But it's not just gold. South Africa is also famous for its diamonds. Some of the largest and most famous diamonds in the world have been pulled from the earth right here. And the treasure hunt doesn't stop there. We're actually the world's largest producer of platinum, a metal even more precious than gold, and it's essential for cars and technology. Plus, we have vast reserves of coal, which, for better or worse, has powered the country for a century. These natural resources have brought immense wealth, but they've also been a source of conflict and exploitation, a central theme in our economic and political story. In the global schoolyard, who does South Africa sit with at lunch? Well, after being the outcast for many years during apartheid, post-1994 South Africa has really worked hard to build bridges and make friends. Our foreign policy is all about promoting human rights, democracy, and African development. As a result, we've got strong diplomatic and trade ties all over the world. A key partner is China, which is now our largest trading partner. You see the influence everywhere, from infrastructure projects to the goods in our shops. The United States is also a major partner in trade, health initiatives, and security. But our heart, our primary allegiance, lies with Africa. South Africa is a powerhouse within the African Union, playing a key role in peacekeeping and diplomatic efforts across the continent. We see our future as intrinsically linked to the success of our African brothers and sisters. We're also part of some interesting clubs like BRICS, an alliance of emerging economies including Brazil, Russia, India, and China. This just shows South Africa's ambition to be a significant voice not just for Africa, but for the entire global South. We've gone from being a pariah state to a key player on the world stage. You can tell a lot about a country from its flag, and ours tells a powerful story. The current South African flag is one of the most colorful and recognizable in the world, and it was only adopted in 1994. To coincide with our first democratic election. It's a baby as far as flags go, but it's packed with meaning. It was designed to symbolize unity, to literally stitch the country back together after decades of division. It's a symbol of the new South Africa, the Rainbow Nation. The design itself is brilliant. The Y shape can be interpreted as the convergence of diverse elements within South African society, moving forward in unity. The colors themselves don't have an official single meaning, but they are drawn from the flags of the past. The black, green, and gold from the flags of liberation movements like the ANC, and the red, white, and blue from the old colonial flags of the UK and the Netherlands. It's a visual representation of convergence and reconciliation. Seeing this flag fly, especially for South Africans who remember the old one, is a deeply emotional and proud experience. Let's get technical for a second and pinpoint our exact location on this big blue marble. If you were a pilot or a ship's captain, you'd need our coordinates. South Africa sits roughly at a latitude of 30 degrees south of the equator and a longitude of 25 degrees east of the prime meridian. Now, what does that actually mean for the average person? Well, being 30 degrees south puts us in the southern hemisphere, which means our seasons are the opposite of Europe and North America. When they're building snowmen, we're firing up the braai, that's a barbecue, on the beach. Our longitude, 25 degrees east, places us in a time zone that's 2 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time. This position on the globe is key to our climate and our biodiversity. It gives us those hot summers and mild winters. It puts us in a perfect spot to receive weather systems from both the icy Atlantic and the warm Indian Ocean. These numbers aren't just for maps, they are the invisible architects of our natural world, dictating everything from our weather patterns to the unique plants and animals that call this place home. A country's story is often written by its water. In South Africa, that story is one of contrast of mighty oceans and a thirst for water inland. We are blessed with an immense coastline, over 2,800 kilometers long, which is kissed by two of the world's great oceans. On the west coast, you have the cold, nutrient-rich Atlantic Ocean, which creates a rugged, misty coastline and supports a huge fishing industry. On the east coast, the warm, tropical Indian Ocean washes ashore, creating the perfect conditions for swimming, surfing, and coral reefs. Where they meet is a place of incredible power and beauty. Inland, however, is a different story. South Africa is a largely semi-arid country, and water is a precious resource. Our longest and most important river is the Orange River, or the Gariep River. It starts in the mountains of Lesotho and travels over 2,000 kilometers across the country to the Atlantic. It's the lifeblood for agriculture and communities along its path. We also have other important rivers like the Limpopo in the north, which we share with our neighbors, and the Vaal River, which is crucial for the industrial heartland of Johannesburg. Managing this precious water is one of the biggest challenges and priorities for the country. All right, let's talk money. Every country has its own, and ours is called the Rand. The name actually comes from the Witwatersrand, which means Whitewater's Ridge in Afrikaans, the ridge where Johannesburg was built and where most of the country's gold was discovered. So, our money is literally named after the source of our historical wealth. The Rand was introduced in 1961, the same year we became a republic, replacing the South African pound. It's a currency that has seen some wild rides, and honestly, its value often reflects the political and economic ups and downs of the country. The symbol for the Rand is a simple R, and it's subdivided into 100 cents. Our banknotes, I have to say, are some of the most beautiful in the world. For many years, they featured the big five animals: the lion, leopard, elephant, rhino, and buffalo. The latest series of banknotes pays tribute to our greatest hero, Nelson Mandela, with his face on the front of every note. On the back, they still feature the big five, but as family groups, which is a subtle nod to the idea of nation and community. It's a currency that literally carries our natural heritage and our political history in its design. A nation is defined by its people, especially those who rise up to lead, to inspire, and to sacrifice. And, well, South Africa has a pantheon of giants. The name that echoes around the world, of course, is Nelson Mandela, Madiba, a man who spent 27 years in prison and emerged not with bitterness, but with a message of reconciliation that saved the country from a civil war. He is the father of our democracy, a global icon of forgiveness and resilience. His story is really the story of South Africa's struggle and triumph. But he did not walk that path alone. There was Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the moral conscience of the nation, with his infectious laugh and his unwavering pursuit of truth and reconciliation. He gave us the name Rainbow Nation. There were the heroes of the struggle like Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo, and Chris Hani, who dedicated and often lost their lives in the fight against apartheid. And we must not forget the countless women like Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Albertina Sisulu, and Helen Joseph, whose courage and strength were the backbone of the movement. These are the men and women whose shoulders we stand on. To understand modern South Africa, you really have to understand the deep wound of its past apartheid. This wasn't just simple segregation, it was a brutal, systematic, and legalized system of racial discrimination institutionalized in 1948. It dictated where people could live, what jobs they could have, who they could marry, and what education they could receive, all based on the color of their skin. It was designed to keep the white minority in power and control the black majority. It was a crime against humanity, and it left scars that are still healing today. The resistance to this system was the anti-apartheid struggle, a long and brutal conflict fought on many fronts. There were peaceful protests, marches, and boycotts, often met with violent suppression by the state, like the Sharpeville Massacre in 1960, and the Soweto Uprising in 1976, where schoolchildren protesting the use of Afrikaans in schools were gunned down. There was also an armed struggle led by organizations like the ANC's military wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe. And there was a global struggle, with international sanctions and boycotts putting immense pressure on the regime. This struggle, honestly, defined South Africa for the second half of the 20th century. The leadership of a country tells its story. Since the dawn of democracy in 1994, South Africa has been led by a series of presidents, each leaving their own mark on the nation's path. The first, of course, was the incomparable Nelson Mandela. He served one term, from 1994 to 1999, focusing on national reconciliation and building the foundations of a new democratic state. He set a precedent for peaceful transition of power, a vital step for a young democracy. After him came Thabo Mbeki, his deputy. Mbeki was an intellectual, a Pan-Africanist who focused on economic growth and positioning South Africa as a leader on the continent. His presidency, however, ended in a power struggle within the ruling ANC party, and he was succeeded by Kgalema Motlanthe as a caretaker president. Then came the era of Jacob Zuma, a populist leader whose presidency from 2009 to 2018 was plagued by numerous corruption scandals that deeply damaged the economy and public trust. After his resignation under pressure, he was replaced by Cyril Ramaphosa, a former union leader and businessman who came to power on a promise of reform and fighting corruption. The journey of these leaders mirrors the journey of the country itself, full of hope, progress, challenges, and the ongoing struggle to fulfill the promise of 1994. Let's switch gears back to the economy. A country's gross domestic product, or GDP, is basically its economic report card. It measures the total value of all goods and services produced in a year. South Africa's GDP is one of the largest on the African continent, often vying with Nigeria and Egypt for the top spot. The latest figures place it in the ballpark of $400 billion. This makes South Africa a major economic engine not just for its own people, but for the entire Southern African region. However, that big number hides a story of massive inequality. South Africa has one of the highest Gini coefficients in the world, which is a measure of income inequality. This means that while the country as a whole produces a lot of wealth, that wealth is not distributed evenly. It's a legacy of apartheid's economic structures that the democratic government is still grappling with. The economy is also diversifying. While mining is still important, the services sector, things like finance, retail, and communications, is now the largest part of the economy. It's an advanced, sophisticated, but deeply unequal economy. A country is defined by its borders, the lines on the map that separate it from its neighbors. South Africa shares land borders with 6 other countries, creating a complex and dynamic region. To the north, we have a long border with Namibia on the west, and Botswana and Zimbabwe in the center. These borders cross vast, arid landscapes and are home to incredible wildlife reserves, like the Kalahari Transfrontier Park, which we share with Botswana. To the east, we border Mozambique with its tropical coastline, and the small kingdom of Eswatini, which was formerly Swaziland. And then there's the most unique border situation of all, Lesotho. The Mountain Kingdom is an independent country that is completely landlocked, entirely surrounded by South Africa. It's like a donut hole in the middle of our country. These borders are not just lines on a map, they are arteries of trade, culture, and migration. People and goods flow across them every day. They are a source of both cooperation through shared resources like water and parks, and challenges like managing undocumented migration. Our relationships with our immediate neighbors are absolutely fundamental to our stability and prosperity. In today's world, you can't go it alone. Countries join clubs and organizations to work together on shared problems and goals. South Africa, after being isolated during apartheid, is now an active member of the international community. A cornerstone of our foreign policy is our membership in the African Union, the continental body that works towards a more integrated and prosperous Africa. We're also a key member of the Southern African Development Community, our regional economic bloc, which promotes cooperation among the 16 member states in our neighborhood. On the global stage, we're a proud founding member of the United Nations. Our struggle against apartheid was a major issue at the UN for decades, and our transition to democracy is seen as one of the organization's great successes. And, as I mentioned before, we're part of the BRICS group of emerging economies, which gives us a platform to advocate for the interests of the developing world. These memberships are crucial. They allow South Africa to have a voice on global issues, from climate change to trade, and to contribute to a more peaceful and equitable world. The infrastructure of a country is its skeleton, the roads, ports, and power lines that allow it to function and grow. South Africa has arguably the most developed and sophisticated infrastructure on the African continent. Our road network is extensive and well-maintained, especially our national highways, which connect all the major cities. We drive on the left, by the way, a little souvenir from the British. Our ports, like Durban and Cape Town, are some of the busiest in the southern hemisphere, acting as crucial gateways for trade for us and our landlocked neighbors. However, this skeleton is under strain. The energy sector in particular has faced huge challenges. The state-owned power utility, Eskom, has struggled to meet demand, leading to a period of rolling blackouts which we call load shedding. It's a major handbrake on the economy and a daily frustration for citizens. There's a massive push now towards renewable energy, solar and wind, to solve this crisis and make our energy supply more sustainable. So while our infrastructure is a great asset, maintaining and modernizing it, especially in the energy sector, is one of our biggest national projects. So how does this whole complex country actually run? What's the system? South Africa is a parliamentary republic. Let's break that down. Republic means our head of state is a president, not a monarch. We said goodbye to the Queen of England back in 1961. Parliamentary means that our president is not directly elected by the people in a separate vote. Instead, we citizens vote for a political party in the national election. The party that gets the most votes gets the most seats in parliament. Then the members of parliament, specifically the National Assembly, which is our lower house, elect the president from among themselves. So the leader of the majority party almost always becomes the president. Our parliament is bicameral, meaning it has two houses, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, which represents the interests of our 9 provinces. This system, with its checks and balances between the executive, that's the president and cabinet, the legislature, which is parliament, and the judiciary, meaning the courts, is designed to ensure accountability and prevent the concentration of power that marked our past. If you don't like the weather in South Africa, just drive for a few hours. The country's climate is incredibly varied, which is why it's often called a world in one country. The Western Cape around Cape Town has a Mediterranean climate. That means warm, dry summers and cool, wet winters. It's perfect for growing grapes, which is why our wine region is world famous. As you move east along the coast, it becomes more subtropical. The coast of KwaZulu-Natal is humid and warm year-round, with lush green landscapes and warm Indian Ocean water. Head inland onto the high central plateau, known as the Highveld, where Johannesburg and Pretoria are located, and the climate changes again. Here you get hot summers with dramatic afternoon thunderstorms and dry, crisp, sunny winters. The northwest of the country is arid and desert-like, home to the Kalahari, and in the high mountains of the Drakensberg, you can even get snow in the winter. This incredible diversity of climates is what creates the stunning variety of landscapes and ecosystems that make South Africa so unique. With such a diverse climate, you're going to get an equally diverse range of plants and vegetation. South Africa is a botanical paradise. The central plateau is dominated by vast grasslands, what we call the Highveld. These are seas of grass that support huge herds of antelope and other wildlife. As you move north and east, these grasslands transition into savanna, or what people might call bushveld, a mix of grasses and thorny acacia trees. This is the classic African landscape that you see in wildlife documentaries, home to lions, elephants, and giraffes. But the real botanical jewel is in the Western Cape. This region is home to the Cape Floral Kingdom, the smallest of the world's 6 floral kingdoms, but by far the richest in terms of plant diversity. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, containing thousands of plant species like the famous proteas and fynbos that are found nowhere else on Earth. It has more plant species in a small area than the entire Amazon rainforest. From the lush forests of the Garden Route to the unique succulent plants of the Karoo Desert, the plant life here is a national treasure. South Africa is a country where the past is always present. You can feel it and you can visit it. We have several UNESCO World Heritage Sites that tell the story of humanity itself and our own more recent turbulent history. One of the most important is the Cradle of Humankind, just outside Johannesburg. It's a network of limestone caves that has produced some of the oldest and most significant hominid fossils ever found, earning it the title, the birthplace of humanity. You can literally walk through the landscape where our distant ancestors lived millions of years ago. Then there is Robben Island, the infamous prison island in Table Bay off the coast of Cape Town. This is where Nelson Mandela and so many other political prisoners were incarcerated for decades. A tour of the island, often led by former prisoners, is a deeply moving and powerful experience that provides a stark reminder of the price of freedom. Other sites, like the battlefields of KwaZulu-Natal, where Zulu, Boer, and British armies clashed, or the District 6 Museum in Cape Town, which tells the story of forced removals under apartheid, offer profound insights into the forces that have shaped our nation. A nation's future is built in its classrooms and lecture halls. South Africa has a strong and respected higher education sector, with a network of public universities, some of which are ranked among the best in the world. The University of Cape Town, with its stunning campus on the slopes of Table Mountain, is consistently ranked as the top university in Africa. Then there's the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, known as WITS, which is a leading research institution and was an intellectual hub of anti-apartheid activism. Stellenbosch University, in the heart of the winelands, is another historic and highly regarded institution. These universities, along with others like the University of Pretoria and Rhodes University, attract students and academics from all over the continent and the world. They are vibrant centers of learning, debate, and innovation. However, like many aspects of South African life, they also face challenges, particularly around funding, access for poor students, and the ongoing project of decolonizing the curriculum to make it more relevant to an African context. The student-led fees must fall protests of recent years highlighted these ongoing struggles. So, how do 60 million people move around this large country? The transportation system is, like many things here, a story of contrasts. For those who can afford it, the system is excellent. As I mentioned, we have a fantastic network of national roads and highways. Most middle-class South Africans rely on private cars to get around. We also have a well-developed air network, with OR Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg being the busiest airport in Africa, connecting us to the rest of the world and all our major cities. For the majority of the population, however, public transport is the reality. The most iconic form is the minibus taxi. These are not yellow cabs, they are 16-seater vans that operate on informal routes, zipping through traffic with their own set of rules and a unique system of hand signals to indicate their destination. They are the circulatory system of the workforce. We also have train networks, particularly in urban areas, though they have faced challenges with maintenance and security. And in our major cities, there are modern bus rapid transit systems, a safer and more formal alternative that the government is expanding. The relationship between the sky and the land, rainfall, and agriculture is fundamental to any country. In South Africa, it's a dramatic one. As we've discussed, it's a generally dry country. Rainfall is unreliable and varies hugely by region. The east is wet and subtropical, while the west is semi-desert. Most of the country gets its rain in the summer months, often in the form of powerful thunderstorms. The Western Cape is the exception, with its winter rainfall pattern. This makes water conservation and management a critical national issue. Despite the water challenges, agriculture is a vital part of our economy and culture. We are a major food exporter. The primary crop, the staple food for millions, is maize, which we call mealies. You'll see vast fields of it across the central parts of the country. We are also famous for our fruit exports. Think of citrus fruits, apples, and grapes. And of course, there is the wine industry. The beautiful vineyards of the Western Cape produce world-class wines that are enjoyed all over the globe. From large-scale commercial farming to small-scale subsistence farming, working the land is central to the South African identity. In case you missed it earlier, or maybe you just skipped to this chapter, let's state it loud and clear for the people in the back. South Africa is in Africa. I know, the name is a bit of a giveaway, but you'd actually be surprised how often people get confused about that. We're not just geographically on the continent. Our identity, our culture, our future, and our soul are fundamentally African. For a long time, the apartheid regime tried to position the country as a European outpost, an extension of the West that just happened to be on African soil. It was a lie that tried to sever us from our home. The birth of democracy in 1994 was a homecoming. It was a re-embrace of our African identity. We are a nation of diverse African peoples, Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho, Tswana, Venda, Ndebele, and more, alongside citizens of European, Asian, and mixed heritage, who are all now Africans. Our music, our art, our political alliances, and our aspirations are all deeply rooted in this continent. We are one of the 54 countries that make up the beautiful, complex, and dynamic continent of Africa, and we are proud of it. Every sovereign nation needs a way to protect its borders and its people. South Africa's military is the South African National Defence Force, or the SANDF. It's a fascinating institution because, like the country itself, it was born from a process of integration and reconciliation. After 1994, the old apartheid-era South African Defence Force was merged with the soldiers from the liberation armies, like the ANC's Umkhonto we Sizwe and the PAC's Azanian People's Liberation Army. It was a massive undertaking to bring former enemies together into a single unified force under a new democratic government. Today, the SANDF consists of 4 branches: the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Medical Health Service. It's considered one of the most technologically advanced and well-equipped militaries in sub-Saharan Africa. Its primary role is defending the country, but it's also heavily involved in peacekeeping missions across the African continent, playing a crucial role in promoting stability in countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo and Mozambique. It's a force that has transformed from an instrument of oppression into a symbol of national unity and a contributor to continental peace. Finally, let's talk about the soul of the nation, the things that make life here so vibrant. The culture is a melting pot. The music is a global force, from the harmonies of Ladysmith Black Mambazo to the revolutionary jazz of Hugh Masekela, and now the infectious beats of Amapiano, a sound born in our townships that is taking over the world. The food? Oh, the food. You have to try a braai, our version of a barbecue, which is honestly more like a religion. Taste the biltong, which is dried, cured meat. Boerewors, a thick farmer's sausage, and pap, a maize porridge. In Durban, the Indian-influenced bunny chow, that's a hollowed-out loaf of bread filled with curry, is legendary. Sport is another religion. We are passionate about it. Rugby is huge. You've seen us win the World Cup a few times. Soccer or football is the people's game, and cricket is a national obsession. Our major cities are buzzing hubs of life. Johannesburg, or Joburg, is the fast-paced economic heart. Cape Town is the stunningly beautiful mother city, nestled between mountain and sea. Durban is the laid-back subtropical port city, and for tourists, there's everything from the wildlife of the Kruger National Park, one of the greatest game reserves in the world, to the natural beauty of the Drakensberg Mountains and the Garden Route. It's a country that truly stimulates all the senses. And there you have it, a whirlwind tour through the heart and soul of South Africa. We've journeyed from the 3 capitals to the depths of the gold mines, from the pain of apartheid to the triumph of the Rugby World Cup. We've tasted the food, heard the music, and met the heroes. Of course, we've only scratched the surface. To truly know South Africa is a lifelong journey, even for those of us born here. It's a country that is constantly changing, constantly debating with itself, and constantly striving to live up to the immense promise of its Rainbow Nation ideal. It's a place of breathtaking beauty and profound challenges, a story of hope written on a canvas of complex history. What we've seen today is that South Africa is more than just a collection of facts and figures. It's a living, breathing entity with a heartbeat you can feel in its city streets and its vast savannas. It's a testament to the idea that people from vastly different backgrounds can come together to forge a new identity. It's a story that is far from over, with new chapters being written every single day by its 60 million people. The energy, the resilience, the creativity, and the warmth of its people are what truly define this nation at the southern tip of Africa. I hope this journey has inspired you and given you a deeper understanding of this incredible place. Now I want to hear from you. What was the most surprising or fascinating fact you learned about South Africa today? Drop it in the comments below. I'd love to read your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this deep dive and want to explore more fascinating countries and cultures around the world, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and as we say in South Africa,